I spent my childhood carrying a book everywhere I went, hiding in my room reading during family parties, and feeling like there must be something wrong with me. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about a third to half of the population who possess an extraordinary power, a power our society often overlooks, dismisses, and sometimes even pathologizes. What if I told you that the very qualities we're taught to suppress might actually be our greatest strengths? Here's something that might surprise you. Some of history's most transformative leaders, Eleanor Roosevelt, Rosa Parks, Gandhi, were introverts who would have rather been at home reading books than standing in the spotlight. Yet they changed the world profoundly. What if our cultural obsession with extroversion is causing us to miss out on the unique gifts introverts bring? What if we're designing our schools, workplaces, and social structures in ways that systematically undervalue 1/3 to 1/2 of our talent pool? And what if you, yes, you who might have always felt there was something wrong with preferring solitude, are actually perfectly designed for the contributions only you can make? I'd like to start with a confession. I'm an introvert. Yes, I realize. There's some irony in my standing on a stage talking about introversion. But what I've learned is that this apparent contradiction actually reveals something important. I spent my childhood carrying books to family gatherings, hiding in my room during parties, and feeling deeply uncomfortable whenever I was pulled away from my inner world. My parents were wonderful and supportive, but I could see the worry in their eyes. Would I be okay in this loud, competitive world? When I became a Wall Street lawyer, I discovered what many introverts do, that we can learn to act like extroverts when our values and passions require it. I gave speeches and negotiated deals, all while feeling like I was wearing an elaborate costume. At night, I'd return home exhausted from what psychologists call persona fatigue, the cognitive and emotional toll of pretending to be someone you're not. But here's what fascinated me. In my quiet moments of reading and reflection, I started noticing patterns. Many of my introverted clients and colleagues were brilliant thinkers, compassionate listeners, and careful decision makers. Yet in meeting after meeting, their voices were drowned out by louder, more assertive personalities, often to the detriment of the work itself. I wonder, how many of you have ever had that moment in a meeting where you had an important insight but couldn't find the space to share it? Or felt drained after social events that others seemed energized by? If you're nodding right now, you're not alone. What I've learned is that introversion isn't about shyness or social anxiety, though those can certainly coexist with it. At its core, introversion is about how you respond to stimulation, including social stimulation. Introverts feel most capable and energized when in quieter, more minimally stimulating environments. Extroverts feel at their best when there's more going on, more people, more activity, more energy. These differences appear to be visible from birth. Research shows that about 40–50% of what determines introversion or extroversion is genetic. But here's where things get problematic. We've built a society that dramatically favors the extrovert ideal. Our schools are designed around pod-like arrangements and constant group work. Our workplaces feature open floor plans, where we're constantly exposed to noise and interruption. Even our religious institutions often emphasize community worship over contemplative practice. And most strikingly, around the turn of the 20th century, we underwent what historians call a shift from a culture of character to a culture of personality. Where we once admired people for their inner moral qualities, we began to celebrate magnetic, charismatic personalities above all else. Self-help books stopped advising readers on cultivating inner virtues and started teaching them how to be captivating, dominant, forceful, in a word, extroverted. If you're finding value in understanding this cultural shift, please hit the like button. It helps others discover this conversation, especially other introverts who might be feeling alone in their experience. And I'd love to hear in the comments about moments when you felt pressure to be more extroverted than felt natural to you. But here's something surprising. The data shows that introverts often make better students, more careful and effective leaders, and more innovative thinkers than their extroverted counterparts. Why? Because solitude is a crucial ingredient for creativity and deep thought. Charles Darwin took long walks alone in the woods and turned down dinner invitations. Dr. Seuss created his masterpieces in a private bell tower on his property. Steve Wozniak, who invented the first Apple computer, explicitly says he never would have become such an expert if he hadn't been too introverted to leave the house when he was growing up. And when it comes to leadership, introverts often excel because they're more likely to listen to others' ideas, more careful in their decision-making, and more persistent in solving complex problems. One study found that introverted leaders produced better results than extroverts when leading proactive employees, precisely because they were more likely to let those employees run with their ideas rather than dominating the conversation. But perhaps most importantly, many transformative leaders throughout history were introverts who took the spotlight not because they enjoyed it, but because they were driven by deep conviction. Eleanor Roosevelt described herself as a timid child who found her voice through her principles. Rosa Parks was known by those close to her as soft-spoken and reserved. Gandhi was a deeply contemplative man who spent hours in silent meditation. Here's something that might challenge your assumptions. Research shows absolutely zero correlation between being the best talker and having the best ideas. Yet our group dynamics consistently reward the most verbal, not necessarily the most insightful. Take a moment to think about the last time you were in a group setting, a meeting, a class, a social gathering. Who dominated the conversation? Whose ideas were implemented? And were those the best ideas, or simply the ones presented with the most confidence? This reflection isn't about judging extroverts. It's about recognizing the invisible biases in how we structure our interactions. So what do we do with this understanding? I believe we need a new approach to harnessing the talents of both personality types. First, we need to stop the madness of constant group work. Research shows that people are more creative when they enjoy privacy and freedom from interruption. This doesn't mean eliminating collaboration. It means creating a better balance between solitude and togetherness. Second, we need to rethink our physical spaces. Why are we so convinced that open-plan offices enhance productivity when the research consistently shows they reduce it? Why do our schools rarely provide quiet corners for reflection when many students think more clearly in such environments? Third, and this is especially for the introverts listening, we need to understand that our quiet nature is not something to be fixed or overcome. It's a valuable part of who we are. You have permission to take the quiet time you need, to say no to social events that drain you, to work in ways that honor your temperament. And finally, for everyone, we need to appreciate that there's no one right way to be. Some of our greatest ideas come from a dynamic dance between solitude and collaboration, between the depth that comes from quiet reflection and the energy that comes from social interaction. Here's something fascinating. Studies of the most effective teams show they succeed not when composed entirely of extroverts or introverts, but when they include a diversity of styles and create processes that allow everyone to contribute in their own way. The most innovative companies aren't those with the loudest brainstorming sessions, but those that create multiple pathways for ideas to emerge, including pathways that don't require performing on the spot. As I look at where we are today, I see both challenges and hope. The challenges are real. Our extrovert-centric culture isn't going to transform overnight. But I also see a growing recognition that we've been missing something important. What I've learned through this journey is that introversion isn't a liability to be overcome. It's a powerful gift to be embraced. The next Einstein or Gandhi or Eleanor Roosevelt might be sitting quietly in a classroom right now, their potential waiting to be recognized not despite their quiet nature, but because of it. I believe we're on the cusp of a quiet revolution, a movement toward recognizing the power of introverts. And whether you're an introvert yourself or someone who loves, works with, or teaches introverts, you have a role to play in this revolution. In my next video, I'll be exploring the introvert advantage, how quiet strengths create success in a noisy world, where we'll dive into practical strategies for introverts to thrive while staying true to themselves, and for organizations to better harness the unique powers that introverts bring. I'll be sharing conversations with successful introverted leaders about how they've balanced their need for solitude with the demands of their work. Thank you for listening. Remember, in a world that can't stop talking, there's immense power in the quiet voice. Sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is listen.